Today we're going to be continuing to look at a scenario where civilization starts over. Now on episode 11 of this series, this stuff is getting pretty interesting. There's a lot of things happening in each and every episode, and today will be no different. So if you guys do enjoy this episode and enjoy the series and want to see more of it, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated. We were trying to get to 200k by the end of this year. Doesn't look too possible now, but if you guys want to surprise me, go on ahead. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into the scenario. Last time we saw a bunch of things happen over here in Europe. We saw the formation of a new country along with the unification of a bunch of countries. We saw England do its little weird thing. We have two new Nordic countries, and we had a war happening over here in East Asia. And yeah, so starting off in India, the Lime country has been on the rise, and in the last couple of episodes, they got all the way to the top. They are now ranked as the #1 country. And just to kind of do a country rankings real quick, I would say that this Lime country is #1, the red team is #2, #3 goes to the yellow team, which just formed, #4 goes to Germany, and #5 to Korea. Anyway, the Lime team will be making some moves. They typically aren't too aggressive, but they want to go ahead and make themselves some money and get themselves some land, so they will be invading this country over here. They want control over their main capital city down here because it is an important route for trade routes. It's also an important city hub for trade with the blue team. So the Lime team pushes into the countryside, or it's probably not countryside. I don't know geography well, but they push into the south of what is current day Iran and take over that city with ease. They quickly start to flood into the rest of the country until two other countries on the outside get involved. And these guys are pushing in to get land for themselves on the basis of saving the people from the Lime team. So when things are all said and done, this is the new border of these three countries together. They do have a meeting point right here, and this lesser Lime country has been wiped off the map. A few weeks, maybe months after their initial taking of the city, they see great financial growth and also see an influx of people moving to the country, which goes ahead and fuels the country's government to do more. Next up, they will be invading this little pink country down here. Why does it exist? Well, it exists because of the collapse of the previous brown team country, and it's just ugly, so they go ahead and get rid of it. They also do some invading into the yellow team country, but don't really go all out. They only take what they kind of want. They don't want a full-scale war, and they stop invading, and the yellow team doesn't really fight back because they really can't. Anyway, here are our new borders of the Lime team, and as you can see, they have become fairly large. They also encompass a lot of important land modernly, and if they can hold it all together, they could become probably one of the strongest countries in history, but they already are the strongest country in history because no country before them was strong. Actually, you know, maybe the red team at its peak was stronger than the Lime team is now, but it's like maybe #2 in history in terms of the strongest countries. So yeah, it's got a good thing going. Anyway, let's talk about these guys here. They're scared, and they have the right to be scared because there's a lot of big powers around them. The red team is probably looking to reclaim a lot of their lost land. Hey, this pink team country was lost land, so are these two. The Lime team country just expanded into one of their neighbors, and who knows, they might be next. And of course, these two up here used to be part of the green team country, and they might want to reclaim their old glory, so hey, you guys could be next. So what's the smart thing to do in this situation? Well, it's to band together, of course. And just like that, we have the formation of Circle Gang. So just to recap, we have the stars over here, we have the triangles over here, the circles now and over here, and finally we have the squares over here. Back over in Europe, this Swedish team country will finally do some expansion. They did a little bit in the last episode, what had to stop, and now they're going to be fulfilling themselves a little bit more. This Norwegian country also does a little bit of expanding, except they do it in a weird way. They don't necessarily colonize all of the land. Instead, they set up a little like township over here that turns into like a really large county, and this just set up a bunch of like forts throughout this area. It's very strange with what they're doing. They even have a fort all the way up here, which will be problematic in the future, and that's because the Swedish country is still going to expand, and they're going to go around this fort and pretty much encompass this area, and it just looks awful. Some real border gore happening up here, but hey, this is a historical video, so of course there's going to be border gore. But just to make it even worse, the Norwegian country will go up here and go ahead and lay on top of the Swedish country. This creates a Swedish exclave, which looks horrible. And overall, this situation is horrible. But aside from that disgustingness, the Norwegian country will fully colonize this area and fill it in. And yeah, it's almost time for Europe to be completely full. In fact, just to get out of the way, here we go. I'm not sure if they would actually expand up here that fast because of the conditions and the climate, but there we go. Europe is full. And just in case anyone wants to argue about it, I'm gonna go ahead and color that in too. And Europe is our first continent to be fully completed and full of countries. Pretend you don't see this. Anyway, life is good. So good that they're going to do some more exploring. They discover some islands up here in the Arctic Circle and explore more of Greenland. Now this is pretty important because, you know, Greenland's a part of North America and mainland North America is not too far from Greenland. Will they discover America in this video? Maybe. Stick around to find out. All right, time for our daily Britain update, except it's not daily, it's weekly, but there wasn't a video last week, so. Our periodically Britain update. The Lion team has taken out the Red team, only for the Purple team to take a sneak attack and take over a lot of their land and encircling their capital city almost. The Yellow and Blue team threw hands with each other, but the Blue team got revenge on the Northern Orange team. Here are our new borders of the UK. Not fun. Anyway, now let's go down to Africa and talk about these two northern countries here. Now, these guys are huge. And, you know, they're not relatively strong. They're capable, but I wouldn't call them like, you know, top tier strong like some of these other European countries. And my point is that they are likely going to lose a lot of land here. First off, the light blue team loses a chunk of land over here in what is Morocco. It's a fairly big piece of land, so I mean, it's not horrible though because they weren't really using it, but it is a big piece of land. They also lose land over here in Libya, and this is a little bit more important, but they really don't care enough to hold on to it. Instead, they start to focus on themselves as a country because it isn't going so well. As for the dark blue team, they will experience a similar effect. Actually, a portion of their provinces over here will break away and join up with the purple team that just formed. Down south, some of these more neglected provinces will go ahead and join up with the red team. Now, the red team is not a very strong country at all. It's relatively poor, but compared to what they were receiving from the federal government in this area, they would be better suited to being part of the dark red country than they would being a part of the dark blue country. Similarly, some of these southern provinces over here will join up with the brown team, but the issue is they don't actually border, and that's not a hard issue to fix as the brown team goes ahead and colonizes the area up in here. But all of this is mostly leading way to a large country breaking away down south in Sudan. Now, why aren't the blue team governments fighting back? No, this is a common thing in this series where the governments usually don't fight back, and it's for reasons of, you know, you want to satisfy the civilization that you don't want to like have people be unrested by this. You don't want them to be worried about a war, and you don't want to give them ideas. Now that goes both ways. You know, you could be showing that you're not willing to fight a rebellion if it becomes like too large, but you're also showing that like, hey, we're not gonna send you guys to go fight this war against people who are under the same country as you. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know? Maybe it'll backfire one day in the series, who knows? As for capital cities, this cyan team will have theirs up here. The purple team will have theirs up here. This new yellowish country will have theirs right here. And that's all the new countries. So overall, a lot of movement in Africa. As we can see, some of the larger countries do break apart. But now it's time for movement in Russia. A new country will be forming over here on the northern border of the green and yellow team country. And the people here are made up of people from all around Eastern Europe and Northern Asia. They don't really have a goal or an intent, they just wanted to form a new country, and that's exactly what they have done. Capital-wise, they are set up right here. Next up, we have a country being formed over here off the border of the yellow and the brownish-orange country. These guys, very similar to the blue team country. They just wanted to form one, and now they have one. It's very easy to form countries right about now. There's a lot of unclaimed land, so go at it. Go for it if you can. Their capital city will be right down here. So as you can see, Europe is once again completely filled in. Ignore that and ignore that and ignore that. So what's going to be happening here? Well, some expansion is going to be happening here, and it's going to be happening by some of the bigger countries who want to control a lot of land, because a lot of land equals a lot of money. A lot of money also equals a lot of people, and a lot of people equal a lot of money. So there's a little circle thing there happening, I think, if I'm visualizing that right. And overall, the outcome is money. So yeah, the red team is back at it again with another banger. This time they're going for the pink team. So remember, they kind of suffered from the plague. They lost a lot of land, but now they are back and able to expand again. And they push into the pink team, who actually does push back a little bit. That's because the pink team has been around for a little bit. So they are capable of pushing back against the red team. And, you know, the red team doesn't want this to get back to the people here because they're trying to win over the people again. Remember, the people weren't too happy with the red team, and that kind of caused them to fall apart a little bit. But, hey, you know, if they don't know about you losing land to the pink team, then what's the big deal, right? So it's not allowed to get back to them. It's not allowed to get out. And the military fights on. I don't want to call it their Vietnam, but it is kind of like that. It is kind of hard to get in there. Eventually, they do make a campaign out to the capital city and siege it, but that doesn't necessarily stop the expanding on the other fronts. The red team is eventually encircled in the capital, which is an interesting concept to think about, but they are able to make it out to sea, which will help them out a little bit with shipping routes to the outside, although that would probably take a while. So yeah, visualize the timeline in your head and how long this war would take. All you need to know, though, is people back home are getting suspicious. You know, where are the troops at? Have they really been at war with this tiny pink country for a few few months now? The answer is yes, it is their Vietnam, but alas, they finally win. They take over all of the pink team islands, and the red team is back in Europe. So of course, in the peace treaty, they will fully annex the pink team, and yeah, so there's a new threat on the border of Europe. And as we know, there already was an alliance made against the red team, which was the Star team. And they're going to be getting a new member. And that member is, of course, the tiny little country down here, which is the pinkish reddish team. They don't like the red team. They broke away from the red team, in fact. And with the red team expanding again, they want to do everything in their power to not fall back under that ruling and leadership. So they join up with the Star Team Alliance, and there's an interesting pair of ops here in Europe. The Triangle Squad does not like the Star Squad, and the Star Squad does not like the Red Squad. The Red Squad and the Triangle Squad have nothing against each other. So really, if the Triangle Squad and the Red Team wanted to gangbang and destroy the Star Squad, they probably could definitely do that. They're not going to do that though, because the Star Squad has some plot relevance. On the topic of these countries, the purple team is going to make a interesting decision. They're going to invade this tiny little light blue country, which existed only for an episode or two. Well, it was only one episode. And there's going to be some outlash about this, specifically from the new farmer country, which has permission from the light blue country to go through their country and into their exclave over here. The purple team is now denying that entrance. And while people here are starving, and there's a little bit of bitterance. That's not a word, right? There's a little bit of not liking of each other between these two. What's the word? Tension between the two. And just to, back themselves up, they're going to form an alliance with the red team. Now, what you're seeing here is called political shenanigans. That's right, we have political things happening now. This is how advanced we're getting. But the farmer country and the red team country will go ahead and form up a new alliance, which is the Diamond Squad. And with this alliance, anyone is allowed to join it if they so want to. With the other alliances, it's a little bit more complicated. Now, the farmer country and the red team country have a lot in common. And you may not think that because, the farmer country broke away from another country. The red team has been here since day one. Their similarities are that the red team offers equal opportunity to every single one of their provinces. During the plague, it was a little bit less so of that. That's why a lot of countries broke away. But overall, when the red team is fully healthy, they offer the same opportunities to this little province over here that they do to the capital province, and so on and so forth. So it's very equal in the red team. And that's kind of what the farmer country formed from. They weren't receiving the equal opportunity that everyone else was receiving from the orange and yellow team. So they had that in common with the red team, and hence their governments like each other, and hence they formed an alliance together. And the border of the Star Squad is starting to get a little concerning. I mean, you have enemies all down here on the southern Mediterranean, and now there's one directly on your border. The green team is neutral. They're a fairly new country. Same thing for the farmer union, but there's a little bit of political stuff happening here, like I just said. So they feel the need to go ahead and join an alliance. Now, if the Star Squad wanted to go ahead and get more people into their alliance, they're going to have to look north. The German country is neutral. This Switzerland country is neutral, and everyone else is neutral, except for the dark purple team, who is against the purple team since they broke away from them. So what I'm getting at here is that there really aren't any allies that the Star Squad can gain. However, they will start sending diplomats over here to the Northern Iberian team in hopes of, maybe forming an alliance together. Anyway, now over to Central Europe, where the Switzerland country will go ahead and collapse. This country has been here for a while, and maybe some of you are secretly rooting for it, but I have never liked it because it looks so weird. So unfortunately for it, we're going to be getting rid of it. And this is what we got, so it fractures into a bunch of different countries. Pretty much all the provinces broke apart except for two who stayed together, which was half of this orangey kind of thing, and the other half over here. And now we have a bunch of micronations over here. Now let's hop over to Asia, where we have an event happening. That's right, something will be happening over here for once. Ooh, but it's another country breaking away. How original. This light lime green team loses half of its country, and really it's easy to see why. It was kind of weirdly divided up. They barely even touched each other, and the government just got tired of dealing with it, so they let it go. These guys will be smart and will be putting their capital on the trade route. Back over here, just south of where the new country just formed, we have another country forming right about here. If I could get on the right layer. And yeah, I'm not going to do an explanation for every single one of these because it's just going to get boring. Like, okay, a bunch of people moved here and they formed a country. What else do you want me to say? Capital, boom. This darker gold country will now move down into Southeast Asia around the coast of Vietnam. Once again, I am failing at my job and not on the right layer, but they move down and take some coastal area. Now, these guys are a fairly big country at this point, so they want to be careful. Too big equals explosion. Oh, no. The dark green team will finally get off its butt and start expanding. Remember, they were threatening these two countries earlier on, but now they're just going to colonize this area over here instead of threatening little tiny countries. Similar to their neighbors, the darker green country, which borders the also dark green country, my bad, I guess. They will be moving north as well into the Russian areas. And yeah, so this is our new world map. As you can see, it's a lot more filled in than it was at the start of the episode. There's also a few more colors around the place, so that is nice. The purple team will be invading this tiny little light blue country over here. Now, why is the purple team invading this country? Honestly, I don't have a clue. Maybe they want to exert power over smaller countries to make themselves feel better about the fact that their empire is kind of declining. I mean, they did just invade the country that was over here in the last video as well. But nonetheless, they take out this former Swiss country and they are a tiny bit bigger. Also, I do want to say that there's going to be a fairly large war happening soon. Maybe our first large-scale multiple country conflict. I mean, we've had large conflicts before, but this is going to be like big war. And if you haven't been able to tell already, I am kind of like paralleling it with, like, you know, real life history, but you know, with some twists and turns here and there. Obviously in real life the countries were not this big at this point in time. This is like right before colonization, so like the 1500s, 1600s. So that's like the one unrealistic aspect about this series, and honestly I can't really do much about it because having too many countries would be a little too chaotic. Anyway, the Dutch country, that's right, we're calling it the Dutch country now because someone in the comments made a very good point. It's not even like, you know, the capital is not in Germany, it's in the Netherlands. So technically it would be the Dutch country. So we're going to be calling it the Dutch country. But they will also be making a move, maybe as a way to show off the purple team. But what they're going to be doing is invading this French country. Whoa, they're invading this French country over here. And like I said, it's probably for the purpose of showing up to the purple team, since their relations aren't necessarily friendly. They're not like actively hostile towards each other, but it's not like, you know, they're like good old buddies or anything. Next up, we see the consequences of making your borders look like this. A section of the green Norwegian team breaks away and just worsens this whole situation. It looks horrible. They don't even take this part of Norway. It's just like a random little part of the Norwegian country that's like hundreds of miles from the border. Well, maybe not hundreds of miles. No, probably maybe. I have a bad sense of direction, so I'm not sure, but it's far away from the actual country, so yeah, just some really bad Balkan stuff happening over here in Scandinavia. Anyway, their capital city will be located along the water, and we have ourselves 4 Nordic countries now. Like I said, we're going to be discovering America in this episode, so we need to fill this in a little bit. Not too much, though. We have this magenta team going north and colonizing some land in Russia / Mongolia / China. And this comes as a huge surge of population starts moving to Asia, where it's a lot more peaceful than bloody old Europe. I guess some things never change in history, although historically Asia was not much better. The Cyan country also does a wee bit of expansion as well. Yes, I just said wee bit. I am apparently British. And after a few weeks or months, we have Asia looking something like this now. So these countries are becoming fairly large, and they're also notably weak. Someone who isn't weak is the green team. And remember in the last episode, these countries that surround the green team banded together into an alliance, which kind of, I guess, is against both green teams. If you really think about it, it's against the original green team, which started way over here and had to be forced this way because of certain countries. But they could also be against the lime team, who we saw expand in the last episode as well, and of course also the red team. So really, these guys are just like sandwiched in between a bunch of powers and they don't want to die. So understandably so, they're going to band together. But with that being said, the green team has to look elsewhere for expansion. Of course, they can expand into Xinjiang, which they will partly do. But the thing about this land is that it's not developed. Well, I mean, this land isn't developed either, but they still want it. So the green team will send military forces into the Dark Cyan team. Now, this is what they're going to be doing. They're going to be going around the trade route, which is kind of like frowned upon at the time. Like, of course, there's no United Nations, so no one's really like actively pushing them to stop this, but it does severely disrupt trade to an extent, and the move is frowned upon by traders all around the world. So this kind of gives the green team a bad rep, but after successfully taking their capital province, they agree to peace with the Dark Cyan team, and well, that's exactly what happens. They agree to peace. Except the peace treaty is slightly strange. They take another city, which is kind of close, and they connect it with a straight line. So yeah, it's weird. If you can't tell, I'm trying to make these borders very extravagant. Anyway, with the Dark Cyan team's defeat, they of course have to move their capital city somewhere else, and they're going to be moving it over here to the east. Still keeping it on the trade route road, but further away from the green team, which just kind of, you know, smack them around. So now when we zoom out, we see a very large green team, which is slightly terrifying because this map looks very green over here. Maybe I'll change that soon. But back to the Dark Cyan team, who is, I guess, relevant all of a sudden. The effect of the invasion and the war effort overall is not too good. They just recently expanded up north, and well, they lose all of that land right away. They don't have the funds, they don't have the money to really hold on, so they just have to let it go. This green team over here takes advantage of it and takes a little bit of land from them as well. But through the war and destruction, new life is born. And their capital city, interestingly enough, is right down here. And that's because it goes right through the trade route. So it's a little bit risky, probably not a good move, but you know, they want that trade route money, so that's what they're gonna do. And the Dark Scion team really kind of like is still not doing so well from this war. So just to make it worse for them, because I'm like evil or something apparently, they're gonna lose the southern part of their country as well, and this breaks off and forms into its own nation. Of course, not without the scavengers on the outside getting in and taking some land. So the pink team takes a little bit, as does the green team. Map update looks something like this, capitals included. And now we can talk about the colonization of America. So, if you haven't guessed already, the country that will be discovering America is none other than the Dutch team. Now, it's really interesting to think about because if you know, you look at this map, you'll see that all the powers are kind of like on the inner circle of Europe. And there's a lot of weak countries on the outside of Europe where, you know, colonization took place in real life by Britain, by France, Spain, and of course Portugal as well. So now we know why the brown team actually invaded this tiny country right here. It's because they wanted to have a coastal area because they want to explore west. Now this isn't some kind of Ottoman situation where, you know, they were kind of holding Europe away from this they weren't holding Europe away from the spice trade with India. That's not why this is happening. The red team is pretty fair about its trade routes. They wanted to do this more so of curiosity, which actually makes more sense than it does in real life. You know, if you think about it, humans are very curious, so obviously they want to know what's over there, right? Easier trade route? What? You don't even know what's happening over here. Why would you? It's just stupid stuff, right? Anyway, a man by the name of Don Klaasman will go ahead and set sail out from the brown country, Dutch land, Netherlands, big Netherlands. And he will sail north-ish. And, well, storms kind of, yeah, ocean storms happen a lot. And his trajectory is changed, and he discovers these islands here. Not a part of the plan, but they will take it. So they use these islands as kind of a base to go back and forth for a few more weeks until they are able to continue their voyage. The storm kind of left a bad effect on them. They lost some people. But on a clearer day, they set out from these islands and continue their journey over west and find a whole bunch of ocean. In fact, most of the crew wanted to go home, and at a point over here, it was like, yo, if you don't turn this boat around, we're gonna shoot you. And then, ahoy, land ho. So, Don Klaasman will go ahead and discover Florida, unfortunately. That's right, you know, no such thing as Hispaniola. That's not the first thing discovered, it's actually Florida. And they set up a colony here and they all die. Yeah, they don't really last long. I mean, they don't all die. It's more of, hey guys, I'll be back. I'm gonna go back to the Netherlands. Ooh, an island. I'm gonna go back to the Netherlands and inform everybody of this. You guys just hold out, we'll be right back. So, you know, they go back, you know, they resupply on this island and then go back over here. Like, hey everyone, there's a whole bunch of land over here. And we think it's East Asia, but we don't know because there's no one there. And everyone's like, okay, hey everyone, I found a route over here to East Asia. So yeah, now Europe knows about this new land over here that is probably East Asia. So from there, they set out on a second voyage to, you know, link back up with everyone over here, and everyone's dead and gone. Luckily this time though, they brought about 4 ships, so there's more people. More people means more land to take, and more land to take means sustainability. So they do a pretty good job at exploring a little bit of Florida until they figure out that they don't actually want to be here and they just leave. No, I'm just kidding. But realistically, that's what would happen. Very quickly, the focus of the world shifts away from Asia and over towards the land over here, thinking that it's East Asia and maybe a quicker way to get to places like Korea and Japan. What they figure out though is that this is indeed not East Asia. Number 1, because there's literally nobody here. And number 2, because Japan said, hey, you're not here. And then these Chinese countries are like, we're not here either. We checked on Taiwan, there's no one there. There's no one in Korea, no one in the Philippines. As far as we know, there's no one down here. So where are you? So after a few years, more and more of the southeast of the United States is mapped out until it's eventually figured out that this is indeed not East Asia, and instead a whole new continent. Realizing the opportunity they have to extract resources from this area, the Dutch country will go ahead and set up a colony in northern Florida / southern Georgia. And some of these big countries want to get in on some of that land. The only issue is that they're all located on the inside of the Mediterranean. The red team uses the new land as motivation to push its people to fund themselves a new colonial campaign to you know, make their way to the ocean so they can go there. Yeah, that doesn't really set well with the population of the red team, who's kind of, you know, like wait, war again? So yeah, they slowly but surely get that war aspiration to go up. The purple team does something very similar, and they launch an attack on the green team over here in France. This does not go very well. You might think that it would, but the purple team really struggles with this one. They do, I mean, they win, but that is not to say that there are some setbacks along the way and some questioning by the populace of, like, you know, are we actually capable or what's happening? After a few more weeks of fighting, the purple team is able to rebound themselves and push deeper into the center territory of the green team until they eventually have to stop due to just, you know, the civilian population threatening to overthrow the government. Nothing too serious. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but on my monitor, like, this is like super trippy to look at. It's messing with my eyes, I think, or maybe it's just glitching out. I'm actually not sure. But the purple team is pushing into the area over here, and obviously it wants to get over here to the new America continent that they just discovered. So Iberia is put on high alert. The thing about Iberia, though, is that one of these countries, the Dark Sign country, is in an alliance with the Triangle Squad, which, if you remember, the Triangle Squad and the Purple Squad, or I guess the Star Squad, they have a little bit of beef. They only fought 2 Punic Wars, you know, nothing too serious. So the purple team prepares to go into its former old colony self, the dark purple area over here, as it hopes to hopefully just push up through there and use the Bay of Biscay to get out of Europe. Of course, this is made known, obviously, by the fact that there's a bunch of troops on the border, and the dark purple team will join in an alliance. The question is, which alliance? They have 2 to choose from: the Triangle Squad or the Diamond Squad. The Diamond Squad is mostly over here in Eastern Europe, so if you think about it, they wouldn't get much help. They would just have to hope that they are able to pull out a victory so that they are liberated in a peace treaty, because they would probably get ran over. Whereas the Triangle Squad is more local. So what they're going to do is that they are going to join the Triangle Squad. Here I am talking about colors and shapes. I never thought I would be an educator. Anyway, purple team and Triangle Squad, good for them. Not so good for the war that's about to break out, because purple team troops have entered into the dark purple country. I just realized there's a big X over here. That's not good. This means that I'm going to have to undo a lot. How much do I have to undo? Not too much. Anyway, before we get to that war stuff, which we're not, let's talk about Britain, because borders are always changing in Britain. All right, first off, the purple team has pulled a magic rabbit out of their hat, and they have taken the capital of the Lime country, which essentially shatters it. It doesn't last much longer after that, as the yellow team swoops in on this opportunity. They do survive, however, as the purple team runs out of manpower, and they relocate their capital down south into Cornwall. Seeing this as a prime opportunity to jump the gold team, which has all their troops down south, we see something unheard of in Britain: collaboration. The blue and purple team work together to jump the gold team, to the best of their ability, of course, and it actually goes extremely well. The gold team is kind of caught off guard by this, and they are eventually forced to surrender as their capital city is being threatened. However, despite the surrender, gold team troops in the south take advantage of this situation and start to expand slightly until eventually they finally receive the order to stop. But by that time, it's too late, as they've already kind of scorched a few villages and offed a few people. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a little bit of skirmish after this, even though they were told not to fight anymore. And it is eventually settled, but just not in a good way, because the armies lay claim to a pretty large county / province / village area, and it's within the yellow team's borders, so we have some more disgustingness over here. Lovely. It's fine though, it'll probably sort itself out in the next video, if we're being honest. See if I can make this worse. I don't know if that's worse, it just kind of looks weird now. Okay, there we go, that looks semi-natural in the least natural way possible. All right, so you know, that collaboration, it ends. The blue team is attacked by the orange team, and the purple team doesn't help them out, so the orange team is just going to take what they can get while they can, and that actually is quite a bit of land. So the resurgence of the northern orange team is much applauded by me. The blue team is kind of in danger. In fact, all of these countries are in danger. All of their capitals, except for the orange team, are right on the border of another country. So yeah, hostilities in Britain. Lovely, right? There is 3 alliances here in the center of Europe, all centered around the Mediterranean Sea. We have the Diamond Squad, the Star Squad, and the Triangle Gang. Or maybe was it the Diamond Gang and Star Gang? I actually don't remember what I called them. But these are 3 very different alliances. The Star Alliance was made in opposition to the Red Team. The Triangle Alliance was made in opposition to the Star Alliance. And the Diamond Alliance is a fairly new alliance, which was made to essentially protect the Farmers Alliance up north here. So there are a lot of overlapping ideologies here, but what is important to note here is that the Star Squad has 2 enemies, being the Triangle Gang and the Diamond Gang, whereas these 2 alliances only have 1 enemy, being the Star Squad. That is very important to note here, as this war is getting ready to break out. Now you might be wondering, how is it going to break out? I also talked about this in the last episode, I believe, and that is that the dark purple team will go ahead and join the square alliance, but they do so at a very inconvenient time because the purple team had just started invading them. Now I do understand that in my videos this occurs a lot, where like a country joins an alliance right as they're being invaded, which causes the war, and I don't think that's necessarily like a super realistic way of doing it. So if you guys have any suggestions for like other ways war can start, do leave them in the comments. This is like the colonial time, so we can kind of get creative with it. Also, I do want to say that guns at this point have been, created. Muskets, same stuff they used back in the 1500s. So guns, yes, are being used. We have mostly moved on from swords, although they are still used in some parts of the world. Anyway, the purple team invades the dark purple team, and they immediately go to war with the rest of the triangle squad. And that's of course because the triangle squad just got a new member, being the dark purple team. So at first this goes extremely well for the purple team, as they see little to no resistance. In fact, they almost completely take out the dark purple team before they see any resistance at all. The dark purple team didn't really have that much of a military because they were trying to rebuild after breaking away from the purple team originally, and they mostly just focused on their economy, which was not a good strategy, as you can see here. The purple team eventually reaches the border of the Cyan country and decides to keep going, further escalating this war and making the purple team look more like an aggressor. They establish themselves around the Mediterranean Sea, taking over any naval areas, because at this point, yes, navies are being used, and we can see that the purple team is becoming more and more like the Roman Empire, except they're nothing like the Roman Empire and they never will be. Sorry, that was some purple team shade there. Speaking of navy, there's a lot of stuff happening over here in the Mediterranean Sea between the two sides, but the overall consensus is that the purple team is winning, so they will send out a cry for help to the Diamond Squad, saying, hey, please help us. The Diamond Squad, having no real initiative to fight against the Star Squad, God, they're the names. They will decline this, however, they will still prepare their troops on the borders just in case. A lot of red team troops are being moved up north here to the Farmers Alliance, as they are a new and weak country and they would not be able to fight on their own. So there are a lot of troops being moved up north here. Back over here, the purple team continues to go into the Cyan country and absolutely dominate them. But finally, we see the Triangle Squad fight back as they are pushed back slightly, but they do still manage to hold on to the Mediterranean coastal areas, which is seen as a very significant part of the war. Have control of the seas? Yep, that's a good thing. That means you have an advantage. Of course, manpower still applies, but who cares about manpower, right? The purple team will attempt to make a landing on the Triangle Squad. This goes well until it doesn't, and they are immediately kicked off of the continent. So I guess you could technically call this the Third Punic War. However, it's about to evolve into something much greater. Fighting continues in the naval areas, with the blue team starting to push back a little bit. I guess I could show naval front lines. It doesn't really make much sense. But if we're looking at the two navies up against each other, it looks something like this. So the purple team obviously has a lot of control over the Mediterranean and is pushing up against the blue team. They will attempt another landing, this time over here, and this goes a lot better than the first one as they push down further into triangle territory. Eventually, yet another landing is made down south here, and it is looking like the Triangle Squad might be in danger. Furthermore, over here in Iberia, the Cyan Squad is pushed way back, and even more Mediterranean coast is lost, harming the economy and the supply of the Cyan country. This is like a dark cyan, but I'm just gonna call it cyan because it's easier. So yeah, the Star Squad has absolutely dominated this war so far, but unfortunately, their ally has just made a really big mistake. You know those ships carrying manpower that were going up to the Diamond Squad? One of them got blown up, and well, when I say blown up, I guess like cannon fire, because we have cannons at this point, and it sinks into the Black Sea, and the red team looks at the orange team is like, yo, why the so the red team declares war on the orange team, and immediately the purple and the weird red team declare war on the red team, making the Farmers Alliance also join the war. And well, the orange team essentially just screwed over the Star Squad. You know, they didn't really want this, but since the orange team was, declared war upon, they kind of had to come to their aid, but they didn't have to. So it's kind of like World War II, where, Germany didn't have to declare war on the United States because Japan did, but they did so anyway and kind of shot themselves in the foot. That's kind of similar to what's happening here with the Star Squad. So the red team, being the absolute menace that it is, quickly takes care of this tiny little country over here. The rebellion that they had a few episodes ago was very well, but they are now going up against the full manpower force of the red team. And remember, in the last episode, I also talked about how they were gaining support for, potential war and colonization. So the people are mostly in favor, since one, they have been, gaining that favor, and two, because they were the ones that were attacked. This really unites the red team, and this is levels of unification that we haven't seen since the red team experienced a semi-collapse way back when the plague happened. So is the red team back to its former glory? No, but it is like it's up there. Also, a lot of you guys have been asking about power rankings in the videos, and it's a really good idea, but the issue is I'm going to forget at the end of every episode. As of now, in this very state of the world, I would say number 1 goes to the lime team, number 2 to the red team, number 3 I would have to hand over to the yellow team, number 4 would go over to Korea, and number 5 would be the Dutch team. So there's your power rankings as of this very moment. Lime team number 1, red team number 2, the yellow team's number 3, Korea number 4, and the Dutch team is number 5. That's about to change though, because this war is going to go crazy. And another thing that I've been considering, not just for this series but for my entire channel, is adding in flags for units, so we can see like different units moving around. Like say that this is like an American flag, I could draw an arrow and then move the unit down into this part of Ukraine, and you know, I would then draw the color around the unit. So I think that would be a really cool idea. The only issue with that is that I would have to get a bunch of flags per every video, and that takes a lot of time, but it shouldn't be that big of an issue. So let me know what you think about that. I'm willing to do it. Anyway, with the Star Squad essentially getting jumped, they will be doing their absolute best to get help. And unfortunately for them though, help is something that is very sparse. I can't speak English. They managed to get one country to join their alliance, and it is the light blue team over here. So they join the Star Squad and help with the pulverization of the Cyan country down here. With a bunch of fresh units on the northern border, this completely catches the Cyan team off guard, and a push to their capital is achieved. And from here, it is essentially a collapse as the Cyan team loses all of its ground and is consumed by the purple and light blue team. With them gone, it is looking a lot better for the Star Gang, who is seeing a lot of success. Unfortunately for them, they were pushed back in Africa, so they lose all of their ground here. But overall, they can refocus their units to either invading the blue team or pushing back against the red wave that's about to occur, and maybe, you know, take out the Farmers Alliance as well. Unfortunately though, for the purple team, their ally will not be able to carry their own weight, and they lose their capital very swiftly. They are shared by the beige and the red teams, who make very quick work of the weak orange team. From here, purple team units flood into the rest of the orange country in hopes of either protecting them or starting a new front, which is exactly what happens. So this is what we have at this point, and it's about to get bloody. The purple team moves in to the Farmers Alliance and sees a lot of success at first, and there is not a lot of resistance by the beige team at first. However, once red team troops arrive en masse, there is a very large pushback. So much so that they are able to meet the Adriatic Sea and march their way towards the purple team capital. After a few more weeks of fighting, we have the borders looking something like this, while over in Iberia, nothing much changes. The purple team now pulls all of its troops over here to the front against the beige team, as they are in hopes of stopping that from occurring any further, because if that were to occur any further, then their capital might be in danger down here in Rome. They have lost all of their Balkan coast and are mainly just over here in Italy and Spain now. So losing coast, like I said earlier, is not something that you want to happen. But the Star team does still have a few tricks up their sleeve. They do ask the dark green team if they would like to join their alliance. They obviously deny it, saying we would get crushed right away. But there are a few other countries that take up their offer, interestingly enough. Those countries include this team down here. I don't know what it's called, but they will be joining up with the Stars. And we also see this red country over here join up with the Stars as well, and we can see that a bunch of the anti-red team countries are going against them. Now of course the red team used to have control over this country, and I think had control over this, or part of this one as well. No, this one actually broke away from the dark blue team, who might have also broke away from the red team. I can't remember. I try to color them so that you can tell which country they broke away from. So like, for example, this is a shade of red in a way. These are all shades of red. All these countries broke away from the red team. And as over here, these two are darker green because they broke away from the green team. Or I guess I should say they were once part of the green team. And all the yellowish countries over here all came from the same source, which no longer exists. So they have started to fade. As you can see, their colors are becoming different. And yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do, at least. Anyway, with these two new countries in the alliance, it gets a lot more complicated for the diamond and triangle teams, as the one down in Sudan will make effort and push up into the dark blue team and take them by surprise. They really weren't expecting this, and most of their troops are overseas fighting in a different continent. So when it comes time to defend, there is really no one there to defend, and they are getting absolutely steamrolled. Even the red team experiences some loss as the Suez area is captured by this country, and eventually the red team has to pull some of its forces, which were on standby in other areas of the country, to come fight over here against the yellowish country. Once they arrive, it's a lot better for the alliance, as they are able to push back and take land away from the yellow beige thing. Additionally, we also see this pinkish country do some work against the red team as they take over a few major areas like this one down here. Remember, this area was very important at the start of the series. And there even is some convincing to get this other dark red country to join the alliance, in which they finally do. So with them in the alliance, it makes the invasion of the red team a lot easier as they push into lands which have not been touched this entire series. That's right, the red team is in trouble. And this would be a very good time for the circle team to jump against the red team and stop any, further imperialism on their part. However, the circle team agrees to stay out of it for the sake of, they're kind of in a bad spot. So if they were to send all their forces this way, then, the lime team could do that, and so could the green team. So they don't want that to happen, so they will instead reinforce their borders and stay stronger together. Good strategy by them. I wouldn't want to get into this mess. So at this point, there's just fighting happening everywhere. With the imbalance over in the Middle East, the purple team is able to make some efforts back against the diamond team. We also see them start an invasion of this area of the triangle squad. And the power rankings, which I showed earlier, are being put into question. But one country is about to join this war, and it will completely shift the whole thing and just flip it upside down and just change. It's going to be dramatic. One of the strongest countries in the world, so one of the top 5s, will get involved and pretty much decide who wins this war. Can you guess which country? Is it A, the lime team, B, Korea, or C, the Dutch team? Well, Korea is probably out of the matter, so we can narrow it down between the lime team and the Dutch team. And, if the lime team joins, it's game over for the diamond team. And if the Dutch team joins, it's pretty much game over for the star squad. So make your choice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's the Dutch team. Unfortunately for you star squad sympathizers, it's not going to be happening. They've controlled the Mediterranean for far too long. It's time for new power to take place. And if you do remember earlier on in the series, there was some cooperation between the Dutch and the red team. It was kind of like a behind the back kind of alliance thing, so it makes sense in the long run. And if I could just put the right shape down, maybe we'll start the fighting. So the Dutch team, who everyone thought was distracted with colonization, is actually just gearing up for this war against the purple team. And when it happens in a just gruesome way. It's horrible. They push up against the mountains which encompass this area, while also going deep into France and cutting the purple team into 2 spots. This is how caught off guard they were. Like, bad. Additionally, they will do some recruitment of their own and get another country to join in with the diamond team. That country, of course, will be the French green country. Remember, they were attacked by the purple team, and they obviously are going to want to get their land back. So they join up and agree to help the brown team. And with, them being cut off, they are able to easily take this land due to the amount of disorganization within the purple country. They lose all of their French area. However, due to the fact that there's 2 countries over here they're fighting, the green team is mostly going to be on defense because this Iberian country down here will be pushing up into the north of them. However, do not fear, just hold your lines because the brown team is going to steamroll over the purple team. They go through the Alps. Ignore that. They're just gonna have to do that. And with the pressure on the purple team becoming too much to bear, they are going to start pulling their troops to come back home. And they leave a lot of their conquered lands over to their allies, more specifically the Iberian country. And while these troops are coming home, they are just like, the ships are just blown up by the triangle team, so it's kind of funny. But with the purple team distracted now with the giant jumping they are receiving, the red team is able to focus on themselves and fight off the countries which are attacking it, being the dark red team and the beige team and the pink team. They push into these countries and eventually take their capitals, and we actually have the pink country surrendering and agreeing to peace, which is surprising. Meanwhile, down in Africa, we unfortunately have the collapse of the dark blue country. They essentially just fall apart, and the countries surrounding it will swiftly move in and take over the land, which is now vacant from any government. Of course, the red team, being the biggest and strongest country here, will get the most and use it to their advantage to push back against the yellow team. Even the dark purple team starts stealing land from the yellow team, and at this point, it's just a giant... It's not looking good. They take their capital and they too surrender. And now we can focus back in on Europe. The Iberian country will actually be able to hold its own. It takes over the purple team's country for their own sake and pushes up into the green team even further. They threaten their capital, but have no fear, the brown team is here as they hold off on this front in order to help out their ally down south. Meanwhile, on this front line over here with the Farmers Alliance, the red team troops are finally arriving back, and it is essentially game over for the purple team, who is starting to show signs of collapse. The people in the purple team, who were once in support of a very nomadic government, are now realizing that that is what they should have stuck with. Instead of settling down and expanding, if they just kept moving around, they'd likely still exist as a country and society, but unfortunately, all that imperialism has gotten to their head, and they are now receiving the ass kicking of a century. Get it? Because this is essentially a world war, and it's an unfortunate world war because the purple team, it's been here since day one, and unfortunately it is falling at this point. I hate to kill off the OG countries, but at this point there's only 3 left. Well, there's about to be only 3 left, being the red, the blue, and the green team. Now the blue team here is the master of disguise. They haven't done jack shit in this series, and I know that wasn't very nice of me to say. However, it was funny, so yeah, if your parents heard you. I know the mom's not happy, but the dad is probably laughing, right? Or maybe I'm just talking to myself right now. I should probably seek therapy. The Iberian team, seeing the collapse of all of the purple team and, you know, the leader of their alliance, they will surrender over to the brown country, and this war will stop in Iberia. And from here, we have the end of the purple team officially occurring. The Alpine region would be an interesting, you know, topic of discussion, but we won't be covering that. And the purple team never fully surrenders, but we do have the brown team reaching their capital and taking the city. And well, the rest of this is going to be divided up between a bunch of different countries. So the blue team will take over Sardinia, the green team will snag these islands, the Farmers Alliance will take control of the rest of the boot, and as for Sicily, they will also go over to the blue team. And now we can take a look at a peace treaty, interestingly enough. Now there of course has been peace treaties in this series, but none of this scale, so this will be huge. So let's take a look at that. Whoa. Alright, so as you can see, this map is extremely different than it used to be. There are a ton of new countries all around what you can see on the screen. Well, I mean, there's some countries down here too you couldn't see, but the purple team, it actually still exists. Now, I was debating if I really wanted to fully get rid of it or not and just start over with a new government, but I decided that, you know, maybe the diamond team had some sympathy. You know, you don't want to destroy the oldest country in the world, or one of the oldest countries in the world, right? That doesn't make much sense in a logical standpoint. However, in my standpoint, I think they should still be around. So I give some mercy to the purple team, and they do still exist, just with a few different people in charge. More so, the nomadic party, which is I guess it is a political party within the purple team, has retaken charge. There is no longer a royal party, or I guess an imperial party. But the only issue with being nomadic nowadays is that well, the map is full, so you can't go anywhere. They acknowledge this, and they instead pursue a policy of being peaceful, which is a good approach for the purple team throughout their bloody history. Elsewhere, it's just a mess, and that's how I like it. You don't want Europe to look too normal, because then it would look like real life, and that doesn't make sense. Starting in Iberia, we have a new country being created out of the white team, and they really kind of got screwed over by this peace treaty, if you think about it. They once controlled a lot of this land in here, but they were forced to cede it since they were on the losing side. And the cyan country is reinstated, and as well as the dark purple country, and they are both given their land back. And there's also a new country created up north here in the northern part of Iberia. The green team got land from both the white team and the purple team. As we can see, they now have access to the Mediterranean. Speaking of the Mediterranean, these 3 islands were granted to the dark purple team. And most obviously here, the brown country has become extremely large. They now encompass a majority of Germany, as well as a large portion of France, and they are climbing their way up to the top in power rankings, now ranked at number 3. Still behind the red team and the lime team, who are not on a different level, but they are definitely a step ahead of the brown team in terms of technology and manpower. But talking about Italy, we can see that they are divided up again. There is a new light blue country over here who makes their capital over here. There's a lime country which has its capital over here. A dark purplish pink country which has its capital over here. The Farmers Alliance has become extremely large. They now have access to the Adriatic and the Black Sea. There's a new blue country here who puts their capital over there. The red team has become very large again, probably much to your guys's despise. Is that how you say that? I'm just gonna learn how to speak Dutch and just start speaking Dutch in my videos. That seems better. Also, I forgot there's a pink country over here now. Their capital is just in the middle, I guess. The Corsican country, yes. We can also see that the blue team took over Sardinia and Sicily, and the red team has a colony over here in the boot of Italy, interestingly enough. So that whole expansion / colonization thing, it did actually work. Also, there has been someone in the comments that has been pointing out that I forgot the color in the Crete country, and you guys are right. They are a country. This is a country that once had land over here, but was kicked out by the red team. And then this land broke away from the red team again, but they didn't want them to come back. So they had to remain on their own, and they never had a capital throughout this entire process. So probably some of you thought this was just a part of another country, but no, this is its own country. So I'll give it a capital here. And then now we can look over here. There's still, as you can see, a lot of capitals on the map from countries which no longer exist, like the orange team and the dark purple team. Additionally, the dark blue team, it actually collapsed, so there was no bringing it back. The people and the government would not agree on it, so they were just divided up. The purple team over here got a lot of land, the red team got a lot of land, And the beige team actually got land too, surprisingly enough, even though they were on the losing side. In its place is a new country, the dark green team, which we'll just put its capital there. And now over here to Arabia, where there are 2 new countries and 1 country that is missing. The pink team definitely lost a lot of land. The red team took some, but also it lost a couple provinces, which then formed into other countries. So we have this green country here and another one over here near the blue team. And in the comments, I want you guys to tell me what you want to happen with the blue team, because they're just extremely neutral. They don't want to have anything to do with any of this. Like, everyone is chill with the blue team. The blue team is just chilling. Well, I don't want to say they're chill with everyone, because of course there's still the historic rivalry between them and the red team. But it's not like they're going to be going to war or anything. They have just been isolated. They are very isolationist. So yeah, Europe looks extremely different now. And that's exactly how I wanted it. Like I said, there's too many big countries, even though I just made 2 countries extremely larger. We're going to ignore that. And glancing at the alliance map real quick, the brown team will leave the Diamond Alliance. They really just joined it to coalition against the purple team. And obviously the Star Alliance no longer exists. As far as the Triangle Alliance goes, they will remain, so it's these 3 countries all together, and the beige and the red team will stick together as well. Anyway, colonization, I did say we would look at some of that. And guess what? It's the brown team, because they're the only ones over here still. The war in Europe certainly did distract the the ruling area of the brown team. The leadership wasn't too worried about this little colony over here, so the colonists did some expanding of their own. Were they actually allowed to do that? I'm not too sure. Suck it up though, because they did, and they are now up into North Carolina, exploring that coastal area, as well as the entire peninsula of Florida has been discovered. The colonists have mostly been neglected, but as of now they're not strong enough to do anything about it, so they will remain as such. And I think I want to take like a historic route here and say that these are multiple colonies, all like under one color, like similar to how Britain had control over all 13 colonies, but they then again could have been divided up into the separate states, but together they were the 13 colonies of America. But we're not even going to worry about American lore until a couple episodes from now. And that's because Europe is a giant pot of war, blood, and death that needs to get sorted out before they worry too much about this. Of course, I say that, and historically Europe was also doing all the war stuff while they were colonizing, so maybe we'll see a mixture of both. Britain update, the purple team has come out as extremely strong, taking over both the yellow and the green teams. This thing is a menace. However, a lot of countries surrounding it are noticing some flaws within their system, but for now, they just simply watch as the purple team gears up to go to war, potentially with their neighbors. So looking at the trade route map here, we can see that the trade routes are, I mean, they haven't really moved much, but we can see that the green team here, we all know their story. They're hungry for these trade routes, and they're looking up north to maybe get some more areas. Now, the issue is that these countries down here that are all a little bit weaker than it, they are all a part of an alliance. If I can click the right layer. There we go. The Circle Alliance, so it includes all 4 of these guys. And, I don't think they want those hands. So they're going to go elsewhere. And elsewhere happens to be a country that used to be a part of themselves. This darker shading green right here. Now, is the main reason why I'm doing this because I don't like 2 greens next to each other? Maybe. This is a slight possibility. But anyway, the green team sets its forces on the border of the darker green country, and eventually they start moving in. They mostly stick to the bottom half of the country, as this is the more populated area of the dark green team. And I just realized if you guys have if you're slightly colorblind, or maybe have a bad monitor, you're not going to be able to see the difference between these 2 countries. I totally get it if you can't see the difference. That's why I'm doing this mostly. But the green country will send most of its troops, like I said, at the bottom of the country, and that's for 2 reasons. 1 being there's more population, and 2, their capital is right there, and they can snatch that up. They would likely win the war. Now, on the other side of things, the gold country also wants to expand. Now, I'm not going to give a reason for this, because at this point, this country is going to collapse, so you might as well take advantage of it, right? The gold country previously lost some land to the yellow team, and the Farmers Alliance thing happening over there, so they want some land back. The populace doesn't really have an opinion on this little event, so they are free just to kind of do what they want. I'm going to go ahead and fix up their border with the dark red team. I don't like how it looks. There's no lore to this. This is just me fixing the map and making it look slightly better. I guess you could say they worked out some kind of land exchange thing. But with the gold team pushing into the dark green team, they're getting awfully close to their capital. The green team doesn't want that to happen, so they will just rapidly expand toward their capital and take the city at the cost of them losing a little bit of ground over here. Not too much though. A few major cities are taken back. On the topic of major cities, some of you guys wanted me to put in major cities, and that's a really good idea. The issue is I don't want to have too many yellow dots on the map. So what I would likely do is I would have them on a different layer, and just when the countries go to war, then I bring in the major cities, because otherwise, we're going to have countries look like they have like some kind of weird polka dot disease. We don't want that. So with the capturing of their capital, I mean, this country was never very strong to begin with. I mean, they just had a lot of land, so really it's just more of pushing through open fields or whatever's over here in Russia. The gold team gets them a big old chunk of land, and kind of similar to how we saw provinces join the Farmers Alliance, some of these provinces within the green team go ahead and join some of their neighbors. So for example, this large one over here, and the yellow team is very long. Wow. Eventually a second entity will break away. This is like kind of a separatist movement, but also it's kind of the government that lost the capital just saying, oh yeah, we're rebels, we're breaking away and forming our own thing. But really what they're doing is they're just trying to preserve as much of the country as possible. So a lot of these provinces will end up going back to the main country. And if these aren't like the actual provinces, this is just me trying to shape out the border. That looks horrible. Anyway, looking at this peace treaty here, we can see that the dark green country is no longer in existence, and instead there is a large green blob in the center of our map. Kazakhstan is looking sexy, except it's not Kazakhstan. This new country's capital will be pretty close to the trade routes, so as far south as they can put it. Of course, the yellow team and the gold team also got some land from this. The blue team did as well, and everyone is pretty happy with this. No one really liked that dark green country, and it's totally just not me putting propaganda into your heads, right? I'm not lying to you. I would never lie to you. So with this video, I have to make it kind of short. I'm not ending the video right now, obviously, but I have to make this video pretty short because I do not have a lot of time to put this on the internet. It's because my birthday is tomorrow and I have a lot of things that I have to do on my birthday. But when you're seeing this, you're looking at 17-year-old me right now, but it will be 18-year-old me, adult me, posting this on the internet. That's so weird. I'm gonna be an adult. I'm old. So when you're seeing this, if you're viewing this on Saturday, my birthday was yesterday, and I'm recording this on Thursday, so my birthday is tomorrow. That's also kind of weird to think about. Anyway, yeah, so this video will be a little bit shorter. Sorry about that. So now in this point in the video, we're also going to keep our focus over in Asia. We're going to have the rest of Russia be discovered, and that's just because I think it's about time. Like, they obviously can make the gear to go up here and go into these like cold parts. They've probably had the gear to do so. I'm also going to discover these Arctic islands. I don't know when they were actually discovered, but I think it's appropriate to have them now. And yeah, once again, staying over here in the old world, the Lime team is having an amazing time with their shipping routes. They are making money right now. They of course are shipping things into the Red Country. They're shipping things all around into the Horn of Africa. They're of course going up into the Red Sea as well. They're trading with these African nations, are of course also going to their colony. I don't think they're going down here, but they are definitely having themselves a nice network moving around the Indian Ocean. And then, you know, there's these guys over here too, but they don't need to go in the water for that. But curiosity, of course, is going to get to India, and they're going to want to figure out if you can go around Africa to get over to the new colonies discovered in America. Now that I think about it, if you wanted to ship something from Iberia to India, there is no Suez Canal. So people would already have been going around. I'm stupid. That's a pretty big plot point that I missed. Yikes. What I was going to be getting at is that they discovered Madagascar, but at this time Madagascar would have long been discovered. So yeah, they stumble into Madagascar, let's just say that, and they just discovered the island. I don't think they're going to colonize it, but they discover it. They also discover a series of other Indian Ocean islands. The dyslexia is strong with this one. And now they're looking at Asia and they're wondering if they can discover any more land when you're trading with Korea and Japan and China. Obviously going through here, going down the Strait of Malacca and up into Southeast Asia. There, of course, you have the Hong Kong country. You also go around up through the Tibet Strait. What am I, stupid? The Taiwan Strait. You go ahead up the Chinese country. You go up to Korea, and of course, you have Japan over here. So, like, looking at their trade network, like, they're kind of cooking. They could definitely set up a series of colonies going down here through these islands, but what takes their interest the most is through the Strait of Malacca. So they start colonizing this area and set up a little trade town right here, and this thing will make them a ton of money as different countries are going to try to trade with the East Asian countries. Think about it. If you're like in the Middle East or Africa, you're most likely going to go down through the Persian Gulf into the Strait of Malacca and right through their little town/colony. You're going to trade for goods there. Those goods are going to be sent back to India, and they are making a ton of money. And the same thing works for Korea and Asia, you know, just the opposite. So this Lime Team country is becoming incredibly strong. Going over to Japan, they have themselves a little bit of an issue. That is, they are struggling to keep authority over these separate islands of Japan. That, of course, includes this one and this one. I don't know their names, and I will not be trying to figure out their names. And that's because I'm just going to forget them. So if you know the names, good for you. If not, then you're just like me. But these two little islands who already have kind of like a separatist kind of government, will just go ahead and split away from Japan. Now they do need to be careful though, because Korea, as we know, once occupied Japan, and they probably don't want to get gobbled back up by them, so they do take note to that. Even some provinces on the main island will break away and form their own thing, but the Japanese government is not too worried about it. These areas weren't too largely used by them, mostly because their population came in through this area, so all their population density is like right in here. There really wasn't too many people living down there, but obviously for the future these areas will become very important. They just don't know that now, because obviously the future is not now just yet. Now over to Korea, they have a referendum, yeah that's right, a whole democratic thing happening on their island over here in Hokkaido. Is it called Hokkaido? Something like that, I think. I'm probably wrong. And the referendum says 50% stay with Korea, 50% form your own country, but there's also the factor of this tiny little nation right here. At the end of the day, it mostly comes down to the individual provinces over here, and Korea will actually openly allow some of these areas to form their own country or leave. So a pretty large province down here will go ahead and join up with this country, and the rest will become an independent nation. Now, Korea does still hold on to a little bit of the island, mostly this area over here, but these island chains go over to the yellow team now, and we'll check back with them later. I'm not going to give them a capital just yet, but I do need to give these guys a capital. I think it's likely that they would all be kind of like on the water like this, so we'll do that. And now there's a few more countries over here in East Asia. However, I do want to mention the stability in this region is declining, and that's for multiple reasons. These guys are all extremely weak. Their governments are not doing much to aid their civilians, and overall it's kind of like anarchist through here. Like the most developed out of these countries is like this one and this one. And even the two Chinese countries are experiencing some rattling in their economies and stability, as they have become fairly large and, you know, not really spread out population wise. Like all the people living in these two countries are right on this coast and like up through here. And you know, that is similar to how China is today, but back then it is harder to control a lot of areas like this. So we'll also check on them later. Maybe not in this video, but soon. And I know I just said that. The green team is also another example. They just acquired all this land, but it's not very stable. Even over here, this isn't stable. The core of the green team started all the way over here. So really, like their population is like having to shift this way. A lot of people probably aren't down for that, so they just stay in their new countries. So the green team never had a lot of population in the first place, but of course you can move your military. They had a pretty strong military from the start, so they were able to do that. Anyway, now over to Europe, we have an interesting event happening. The brown team just got a lot of land from their war against the Purple Alliance, and they will continue to take land as they invade some of these Swiss countries. Now, what goal does this really achieve for them? I'm not too sure. There's really no, like, it's not necessary because they didn't do anything. They're not really going to give you too much in return, but they go ahead and wipe them off the map. Another interesting thing happening though is that the king of the Dutch team is going to grant his eldest son his own empire, quote unquote. Now this, I don't know if this ever happened in history. It probably did, but I think it would be an interesting thing to look at here. So specifically, he gives his son all of the land down in the southern part of the brown team, and he will also go ahead and guarantee their independence. So if anyone invades them, they're also essentially invading the Dutch team, which not a good idea. So we go ahead and get ourselves another new country in Europe, their capital being pretty close to the mainland country. Another thing we see the Dutch country doing is making a new colony, this time up in Iceland. What? Now what are the Dutch doing in Iceland? God knows. But they do take the entire island, and this becomes a part of the Dutch Empire, who is now probably right at the doorstep of passing up the red team in terms of strength. Of course, the red team got a huge buff in the last video. They gained a lot of land, so they did take a big step as well. The Dutch team took a big step as well, and they go ahead and come up right behind the red team in terms of power rankings. Now, here are the two teams I was just talking about, the red and the brown team. The lime team is probably like up here, so there is a distance between the two, and if the red team and the lime team were to somehow go to war, then the red team would lose. To the Americas now. Another country has just finally landed in America. Now before, it was only the Dutch country which was able to make a colony and explore this area, but another one, like I just said, has made its way over here, and that country is the dark cyan country in the south of Iberia. These guys land in Puerto Rico, discover the island, and also discover Hispaniola. So they go ahead and make their colonies in these two areas. They also go ahead and explore the rest of the island. And now the age of colonization has officially kicked off. There's going to be some other countries which are interested in exploring into this area, but as you can see by the map, there aren't very many countries which are capable of colonizing. Now, the Dark Cyan country is like, you know, slightly above average in terms of strength. Before the war, this white country up here probably would have been above average as well, but they kind of got curb stomped, so they didn't really, you know, recover from that just yet. The green team would be an intriguing country to talk about. I think they're probably around average or below average in strength. And none of these other countries over here are very capable of colonizing. Now, if the yellow team wasn't like stuck in the Baltic Sea, they would be able to get out and colonize. The red team really wants to colonize, but their issue is they're stuck in the Mediterranean Sea, and shipping all the way out through here is kind of a hassle. So they will instead just focus in on their own region and not worry about the Americas, because they're on friendly terms with the Dutch team, so they don't really need to worry about them getting ahead of them or anything. It's not like they're going to go to war anytime soon or anything like that. But as for now, these two countries will be the only ones colonizing America, and the discovery of this continent soon ramps up as the Dutch team goes up into Virginia, Maryland, in the DC area. The dark side country makes a landing in Cuba and Jamaica and fully discovers the northern Caribbean islands. The Dutch team will mostly stick to the East Coast as they go up into New York Island and up into Maine and around into Canada. Some exploration trips take place where some of the Great Lakes are discovered. A push from the southern area is made into the center area of the United States. However, they turn back soon because they don't really have the funding for this just yet. And like I said, they're going to mainly want to focus on the coast anyway. So they wrap around into the Louisiana area and eventually stop because, once again, funding. And a big old chunk of the United States has just been discovered. This, of course, leads to the expanding of colonies. The Dutch team gets a pretty large colony, and the Dark Cyan team will take the rest of Hispaniola. I just realized that there is a line separating Haiti and the Dominican Republic. I don't know why that's there. But yes, America. Time for our Britain update. The orange and blue countries unite together into one country. Surprising. Why did they do this? Because they were just attacked by the purple team. They have two capitals. They were essentially two nations united under one flag. And with their combined strength, they are slightly stronger than the purple team. So as they come up into their country, they are able to smash them right back. They might also be getting help from an outside force. But with a ton of troops that may not be theirs, they're able to take the purple team's capital, go into Wales, and knock up that area. That sounded weird. The Dutch country will go ahead and take some land from the purple team along the British coast. And there we go. Britain is essentially united. We'll check back in the next episode to see if that's still the case, but for now, the UK is united under one country, minus this area down here, but that doesn't matter because the Dutch country is doing its own thing. They are going on a rampage. See, like English, it's just every video. The blue team has been a topic of discussion in the past episode or so, and the main question is, what are we going to do with this country? It hasn't moved, it hasn't done anything. It tried to colonize in Africa, that failed, but these guys have done nothing in this series, and I mean nothing. Like, if you look at the countries that have done nothing, these guys are number one in nothingness. So what's happening? What's stirring up in the blue team? Well, I've seen a lot of suggestions as to what to do with them, but I'm going to be doing the one that I like the most. In this case, the blue team is breaking out into a revolution. So a couple of major cities will break away along the coast of the southern blue team. Alright, so just real quick, let's talk about the history and get a recap. In the beginning, civilization started where these holy cities are breaking away. Now, I'm calling them holy cities because they are kind of the equivalent to Mecca and Medina, but in this case, it is where humanity stemmed from. And that was the red team. Not the red team that we know today, but that red team wanted to stay down here on the coastal areas and kind of moved around where Oman and the UAE are presently. Now, after a few years of existing as a civilization, there were those who were within this country that wanted to move north and go up into Mesopotamia. However, the current government of that red team did not want to go up there, and thus a large faction within that country broke away into what is the blue team. Not this blue team though. These are different red and blue teams. That rebellion was able to overthrow the red team government, and thus that blue team became the sole owner of the new civilization. So there was a rebellion that happened and they overthrew their government, but from there that blue team changed into what is the current day red team. So there was a color swap. At first it was blue, but then it turned red, and that red team then moved up north into what we have today, which is the Mesopotamia red team. Now, during their expansions up north, there was a rebellion down south where the holy cities are, and that rebellion turned into what is the present blue team. So in essence, this blue team is essentially the same roots as the original red team country that laid down here. So with that knowledge now in mind, we understand the importance of these cities. And with this rebellion being funded by an unknown foreign power and rapidly expanding, the blue team is in trouble because they do not want to lose these major cities. Doing so would be pretty detrimental. As they rally their forces, which have not been used since ancient times, the rebellion becomes too much to handle, and outside countries start to take notice and get involved. Specifically, this Lime Team country here will take advantage of a distracted and weakened Blue Team to get more provinces of their own. This is the same for all of their neighbors as they jump in on this chance to expand. Looking at this Green Team over here, they get the most land out of it as they now wrap around down into Yemen and cut off the Blue Team from the Red Sea. As the Holy City faction continues to expand, more rebellions start to break out. This time, one over here where the Green Team is, and this one is also getting funded by a foreign power. The foreign power in question will remain unknown for now, but do note that they are much stronger than the Blue Team and are maybe a top power in the world. Seeing the collapse of the Blue Team and where it all began makes the Red Team a little bit angry. You know, there's not like, diplomatic ties at this point in time. You don't have ambassadors going back and forth between countries, but the Red Team recognizes the importance of the Blue Team and, the importance of the holy cities, which are now popping up as their own country, and is kind of mad at the Blue Team for not being able to maintain that status because they do have a shared history together when it comes to the peninsula. So the Red Team will send its own troops into the Blue Team and kind of do away with the Blue Team government. Now, the Blue Team is a capable country, but it is nothing compared to the Red Team, which is a top power in the world, by the way. The Red Team takes the capital of the Blue Team and is now taking over all of the Persian Gulf coastal area. They make a series of agreements with the surrounding countries to not expand any further and to allow for the Blue Team to kind of collapse and fizzle out on its own. But what we see happening here is kind of surprising, as the Blue Team essentially just kind of merges with the Holy Cities thing that just popped up. Now, there was no official peace treaty to this, and the Holy Cities Alliance will continue to expand into areas that the Red Team just captured. The Red Team is taken by surprise and is unable to hold off against the rebellions, as they didn't send a large enough force down south to deal with them. So the Red Team's army is split into two areas, with about 55% of them being trapped over here on the tip of the UAE, and the rest over here holding a defensive front against the Holy City Alliance. Eventually, the Red Team has to agree to peace with this new alliance, as it simply cannot just hold off. Their armies are too busy everywhere else. Well, I don't want to say too busy, but they are holding an active defensive front in multiple other areas around the Red Team. And that's kind of what happens when you get too big. You have your army kind of like centered out all over the place, and you can't really, centralize it like some other countries can. So yeah, peace is agreed to with, and this new Blue Team agrees to just leave the borders as they are. They won't be pushing further into the Red Team, and the Red Team can even have this little peninsula area, which was once the capital of the Blue Team. The Red Team sees significance in this, as it shows that they are the dominant OG country. I don't know if that's a flex, but they think it is. And now we can talk about the new Blue Team which just formed. And yes, I will be keeping the color as the original Blue Team, just for the sake of being continuous. Now, as for the capital of the new Blue Team, there will be putting it right where it all started, in the holy city of, you guys make up a name. Yep, that's right, that's the holy city's name. But this is where humanity all started. This is where civilization started. This is one of the largest cities in the world, but it also is kind of a mixed kind of city thing where, you have a lot of historical areas that are kind of sealed off by the government, and there's also a mixture of more modern buildings and things happening over here too. So it's a very interesting city, but they decided to make it their capital. And as for these guys, they were mostly just kind of a faraway group that wasn't really too close with the government. They decided to get a bunch of provinces to break away and form into what we have here. But yeah, we have a new Blue Team here, and their main focus and ideology is, the whole humanity centered from us. So maybe we should be the ones to, kind of rule the world. Maybe we should be a top power. That is what the ideology and thinking of this team is. So watch out for them in later episodes. Now zooming out of there though, we can see that Arabia looks a lot different than it used to look. And historically, it's just been two countries here. Now there is a whole bunch of them. But now we're gonna go head over to the Lime Team, who was interested in what was happening over here, but they are now gonna focus elsewhere. Remember in the last episode, I was talking about all of their sea routes and trade routes that they have. They are a vast trading empire. Well, they want to set up a new trading area, this time close to Korea and China. As we know, they have the Strait of Malacca, but some countries are unwilling to go all the way down there just to trade with the Lime Team. So the Lime Team will bring their business to them, specifically over here in the southern Chinese country. That's right, the Lime Team will be invading them. And I do believe that this is our first major naval war. We have fleets upon fleets of ships crossing over here to a very far away area. Now, of course, we had the wars over here between the Purple and Blue Team, but those were not like major naval conflicts. This is pretty enclosed area through here, but the Lime team has to send their ships all the way across. Also, they discover the Maldives in the process. But their ships finally reach over here to China and start their invasion. Through the south, they take over this island here, and then move up into the mainland. Their main goal is to take out the capital, which is basically near Hong Kong and Macau. So after they make their landing, they will continue to push troops into this area, and the southern Chinese country is overwhelmed, and their capital falls over to the green/Lime team. Ouch, that's pretty painful, but not as painful as what's about to happen to them. Remember I was talking about stability in this region? Well, you guys made a good point. If you're unstable, you're also kind of prone to outside invasions and rebellions and all that good stuff. So what do we have happening here? Well, we have provinces breaking away and a little bit of invasion happening. The Lime team will capitalize on this and continue to expand their front down here, all while the provinces of this country decide their fate. Some of them will join up with the northern Chinese country, while others will break away in hopes of embarking on their own empire. We have a pretty large province breaking away over here. Now the provinces over here are all like large, so them combining all together will make up a large country, but it looks something like this. We then have this weird yellowish color breaking away too. These guys are kind of weirdly shaped. That's because the provinces that join them are all scattered about, so let me actually draw in their borders. And then we have an orange country breaking away down here in southeastern China/Asia. Nothing too crazy with them, their borders are pretty normal. But the southern Chinese country at this point has collapsed, and the Lime team will go ahead and take all that remains. I hate how this looks, I'm going to fix it. But their government will go ahead and flee to Vietnam, where they have their most recent land expansion. And after some time, they will expand this all the way down into the tip of Southeast Asia. So we can go ahead and move their capital. It would probably be a little bit north because that's where the more developed land is. So we'll put it right there. And as for these other countries, it doesn't matter too much. I'll be scattering their capitals around wherever I really want to. So there we go. And the Lime team has a significant colony over here now. This country has become very large, and not in a way of that it has a lot of land, but in a way that it is scattered across the world. Of course, they have their colony over here in Africa, they have one over here in the Strait of Malacca, and now one in South China. These guys are diversifying their trade routes, and they are easily the #1 economy in the world. And all that is true while they only have a little bit of trade route going through them. And of course, they want to fix that. So over the past couple of episodes, they have been expanding this trade route and working on it, and it is now officially open for public merchants to travel across. So where does it go? Well, it's going to continue to go down the coast of the Lime team and straight across into the Brown team. From here, it meets up with their capital and then goes up north through Bangladesh and around this bay area, through their capital and down into Southeast Asia where it stops. Now at this point, there's emphasis to go ahead and connect it up through Southeast Asia. The only problem here is the geography is hellish, and the land through here is not developed at all. I mean, like this country right here is basically just a giant rainforest. And there's a few settlements here and there, but that's about it. So instead, they want to work together with other countries in Asia to make this trade route become full circle. You know, you have the Silk Road up here, but you have to go through the Green team. The Green team is a pretty hostile country, and some people don't want to do that. So instead, why don't you go through us, where you can spend your money on our goods and stuff, spices? Yes, very good. The world would much rather go through the Lime team than the Green team, and I think the Red team would also be okay with that because the Europeans would then have to go through the Red team to get to the Lime team instead of going through the Green team. So the Red team's on board with this. They might work together with the Lime team to help the funding of such a thing, but it will mostly be the Asian countries working on it. But there is a big disagreement on how to do this. Do we A, start from here, which is the southernmost point in the Silk Road, or do we start from the capital of Korea and work our way around the coast? Either way, the end result is pretty clear in hooking up down there. The cost won't be too much different, but the approach is what is being questioned. Korea is much in favor of the one that goes like this, as it causes people to, go into their country, whereas China is a lot more interested in the one that goes like this because it takes less time to travel across it and kind of forces the money to go flowing through their country as opposed to Korea. So yeah, these two have a big disagreement about it, and as you'll notice, they are both a part of the same alliance. This disagreement is so bad that their alliance is broken up. Yeah, it's that serious. So the Square Alliance is dismembered over the fact that they can't agree on a trade route. So what comes of it? Well, the Chinese country will start building a trade route of its own and work together with a lot of these southern areas down here. The main country they work together with is this horrible looking yellow country, and they connect a trade route between their two capital cities. From here, they work with the Lime team to bring it right through their colony and into the Orange team's capital. And at this point, you can see where the connection will happen. Korea is very mad about this, and they're going to start to put troops on the border of the Chinese country. The Chinese country is like, is it really that serious? And Korea is like, yes, it is that serious. I'm putting troops on your border. So yeah, tensions between these two countries, which were just allies, are breaking out. Will it develop into a war? Find out in the next episode. Anyway, Korea starts building a trade route of its own, going right onto the border of China, but stops it because obviously those tensions are preventing them from doing it any further. Whereas China will go ahead and start building their trade route out into the center of their country. And yeah, trade routes are becoming a little bit of a hassle for the East Asians. Anyway, we can go ahead and check in on Britain now because we have to do our daily Britain video update. All right, well, it's collapsing. No surprise there though, this was bound to happen. I definitely didn't tease it in the last episode. But the orange team will break away from their union and reform their country. A blue team then breaks away as well, followed by a purple team, a lime team, a yellow team, and then the red team remains in the center of the UK. So that didn't last long, and the Union of Britain completely collapsed. But very sneakily, the Irish will capture the Isle of Man. But yeah, poof. The brown team will continue to expand its colony. Now at home, the leadership of the brown team is kind of split on what they want to do with this. Some of them want to go west and the others want to go north. So a compromise is made where they kind of split up the explorers and half go north while the other half head west. Now the thing about going west though is that this is fairly uncharted, so they don't really know about too much that's happening over here, whereas they know about the entire East Coast. So colonizing the East Coast is a lot more simple, but they do get to a point where they stop expanding, and that is because of monetary funds. The West doesn't have as much of an issue with this as they reach down into Louisiana, but that is the border of explorer territory. From here, they're going to have to set out some more scouts to figure out what exactly is happening over here in this part of the continent. Along the way, however, they are finding a plentiful amount of resources, and this is getting more and more countries in Europe interested. The Cyan country will go ahead and start to colonize parts of Cuba, as well as Jamaica, and a new country will set across the Atlantic to set up a colony. This country is none other than the green team. Now, I know I said in a previous video that the green team probably wouldn't be able to colonize, but I think I'm kind of underestimating some of the countries that I have here. The Western European powers, when they started colonizing, weren't that big and powerful, so I think I've just kind of been underestimating the countries that I have here. The green team would be able to colonize, and that's exactly what they do as they land over here in the New York Peninsula and move down into New Jersey. Now remember, the green team and the brown team have fairly friendly relations. They fought a war together. So the brown team has no objection to this. And that's because, as you can see, they already have a lot of land. The green team now will set out a group of explorers to figure out what's happening over here on the American-Canadian border. And together, these two countries will work together to explore the interior into Ohio and Kentucky. So the exploration of America is coming along nicely. But it's not just America, it's also Greenland getting explored. The Irish country will set up a small colony in the tip of Greenland. I don't really expect them to do too much with this, kind of like similar to Denmark, but Greenland is now looking kind of German. In Africa, we have a small expansion of this dark blue team. I don't know why they exist. I mean, the African countries really don't do too much in this series, and that's because they're not too strong other than the northern ones. Like down here, these guys don't even have capital cities because they just simply aren't structured well enough to do that. A group of immigrants from Europe just moved down here and they were just kind of cut off. So all right, so let's take a quick look at the colonial countries that we have so far. First off, we have the dark cyan team, we have of course the brown team, the green team, and then the red team. As you know, all of these are Western European countries. Also similar to real life, not a lot of non-Western European countries colonized in America. Of course, there are countries that want to colonize over there, like the red team and the lime team, but it's just simply too far away for them to go there. And I do want to clarify that the whole world is aware about stuff over here. It's a well-known fact now, and a lot of countries want to get there, like I just said, even the ones over here in East Asia. So what Korea is going to do is that they're going to set on a convoy and follow up the northern coast of Russia. They want to make it to the tip of Siberia in order to see how far away that is from America. I don't know why the tip of Russia is over here in this map, but they will end up discovering a few Alaskan islands. Thinking that this is a new continent, Korea will go ahead and just kind of keep it to themselves. They don't want to tell the whole world, because then the whole world will try to go over there and colonize it. More specifically, the lime team would likely try to do something because they're kind of reaching all over the place at this point. But Korea starts to explore around the southern area of Alaska, and they just, they kind of sneak around the coast and eventually make their way into Canada. Now, as for setting up a colony, they are kind of reluctant because it is far away from Korea, but it wouldn't be too bizarre for that to happen. Anyway, speaking of the lime team, they're going to go ahead and start a war against this brown country and completely annex them. What did the brown country do? They didn't do anything. This is just an act of aggression by the lime team as they seek to expand their territory even more. The light blue team is a little bit nervous about this, so they're going to go ahead and meet with the leaders of the lime team and work out a non-aggression pact thing that basically says, hey, don't attack us and we will kind of just do whatever you want. The lime team will agree to this, and there is mutual friendship between the two countries. But now we kind of get to see the motives of the Lime team, and what it turns out they're trying to do is expand upon this trade route as they wish to go ahead and get more money within their system. So working with their new friend, sort of, they will push their border all across the Southeast Asian jungles, and eventually the Orange team will also push across and meet up with the Lime team. And now the world has come full circle. With the connection of these two countries, the construction and completion of this trade route will be carried on, and eventually it will be connected up with the Orange team, and will finish off what is an incomplete trade route for now. Additionally, there are plans to expand it down into Southeast Asia, into the Vietnamese country, as well as linking it up through Central Asia. This is the plan that the Lime team supports. And remember, in the last episode, Korea is in support of doing something like this and not having this trade route exist because it would bypass Korea in a lot of scenarios. Also remember, these two had a breakup, so they're not really friends anymore. Anyway, staying on the topic of trade routes, we can go head over to Northern Africa, where the Red team will work with its neighbors to expand this trade route into the north of the continent. In Iberia, it's kind of the same thing with not a lot of major cities, but the Cyan team is strong enough to where they are going to request it, and they will eventually get it. So the trade route now runs all the way over into Spain. It also links up with the capital of the Purple team. This wasn't too hard to accomplish. It even goes up into the capital of the Green team. So we're seeing a lot of European countries working together in order to, benefit the continent as a whole. Of course, this is mostly driven by self-interest, but they do understand that they need to collaborate in order to achieve that self-interest. In the last episode, we also saw the Prince of the Netherlands country get his own country, and with his new country, he's going to go ahead and try to make himself known by invading this small Swiss country, which has done nothing and hurt nobody. The war, of course, is a success for two reasons. One, this country is stronger, and two, they might have been funded by the Dutch country. And now we have reached a point in this series where I think it's important to address rebellions and revolutions. A revolution is quite different than a rebellion in a way that a revolution usually is like a lot bigger than a rebellion. To me, at least, a rebellion seems like a smaller kind of thing. You have a little a couple of towns or provinces break away, but a revolution, I feel like, is more of a split. The country's like split in half and they fight. That's just my own opinion, though. That's how I see it. So I do want to say that at this point, rebellions are less likely and revolutions are more likely, meaning that we won't see just like little bits of countries just break away. Instead, we'll probably see countries get split in half and, duke it out. And that's what we see with the Yellow team. That's right. The culture is becoming a very important thing for society. And it turns out the views between the East and the West of the Yellow team are just drastically different, and it would probably be better off if they were on their own. The thing is, however, the Yellow team is a union of countries, and the ruling party of the Yellow team as of now is not set on allowing half of their country to, just walk away. So they blocked the former Yellow countries from just simply leaving, and that is going to bring about our first revolution. Or I guess our second revolution. The first one was in the Blue team. Or was that more of a rebellion? That was more of a rebellion. It's whatever you want it to be. A large number of provinces will break away from the Yellow team, but that's not all. They also have supports in other areas of the Yellow team which are disconnected, such as up here in Estonia, as well as down here near this Farmers Alliance country. So we can see the two sides. Obviously one is stronger than the other, being the Yellow team. However, there might be foreign support for this new country, but we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. For now, let's have ourselves a little bit of a revolution. The Yellow team will instantly push into this new area down here and seize it. There wasn't many people there, and kind of same up here. There's not too many people up here, but they are better at putting up a fight. The Yellow team will instantly start to push into areas of the new country / revolution, but not for long though, as they eventually hit what is essentially a brick wall of troops. These troops, who are actually kind of surprisingly well trained, will now go back against the Yellow army, which is not so trained as they haven't really fought any wars. The revolution is having a lot of success here, but the Yellow team is able to go up into Estonia and wipe out this area. Additionally, they're able to hold a front line in the northern area up here, but down in the south they are a lot less lucky, as they start to lose a substantial amount of ground over to the revolution. They decide to, instead of just holding a front up here, to use it to their advantage and start pushing into revolutionized territory, and this catches the revolution by surprise. The Yellow team then pushes down and cuts off their advance, and this is pretty bad. Like really bad, because now their supply lines are cut off and the Yellow team is rapidly advancing into their territory. This doesn't deter the revolutionary group though, as they now spearhead over towards the capital of the Yellow team, but are stopped when yellow team reinforcements arrive. From here, the yellow team starts to enclose in all sides against the alliance thing. I called it an alliance. It's not an alliance. I'm just stupid. And these troops are kind of just stuck here and are eventually pushed all the way down to the border of the Farmers Alliance and Gold Team. Back home, the revolution is kind of now pushing back against the yellow team, but not enough to where they are going to be able to survive. But then something great happens. Revolutionaries up north start to break out again, and this whole Estonian area once again is under control of the revolution. Additionally, we see more and more pockets start to break out, this time even closer to the border of the Farmers Alliance. One over here as well, which is on the front lines, as well as one down over here. These guys are in the far reaches of the country and not really too close to the capital area, but that's where the yellow team is weakest in its power grasp, so they are able to quickly solidify and gain the support of the people living there. And now all of a sudden, the yellow team is fighting a multi-front war. Troops fall back from the interior of the revolution area in order to hold a possible defensive front against the rapidly expanding revolutions in other areas. This one solidifies pretty well, but eventually yellow team troops will be able to hold it off. At the same time, they once again push up into this Estonia area and do a lot of damage, cutting it in half. We then see them push back against the main blob, but that's only for now because this is about as good as it's going to get for the yellow team. An outside country will join in, and that is the gold team out of all countries. Remember, they initially were invited to join the Yellow Union and kind of disagreed and said no, we don't want to. And that's because they really didn't agree with the government of the yellow team that was being formed, and they wanted nothing to do with it. Tensions between these two countries haven't really ever existed. They've actually been kind of friendly toward each other, but over the years, the gold team has become more and more aware of a revolutionary movement within and has decided that it agrees more with its political policy than that of the yellow team. But this really isn't any ordinary revolution. This is not only to overthrow the government, but to also establish a new nation state. In fact, multiple. So now working together with the gold team, who believes that the power and influence of the yellow team was overriding its own, this duo is able to do a substantial amount of damage. Revolutionaries push right into the yellow team country as yellow team troops are now kind of losing morale. The gold team also starts to do some damage, but they will mostly just stick to supplying the revolution as opposed to fighting for it. In other areas, supplies are not being reached as the Farmers Alliance may or may not have allowed the gold team to move supplies through its territory, and the yellow team's capital is in severe danger. The Estonian revolution now pushes back against the yellow defense and is as big as it's ever been as it now wraps around into Latvia. These two finally connect, encircling a good bunch of yellow team troops. The orange team will get in on this free land experience, and the revolutionaries now push down the coast and meet up with their southern selves in the capital of the yellow team, killing any prominent government officials that still exist there and bringing about a pretty severe collapse. From here, provinces decide to start surrendering and this whole blob disappears, and now all that remains is this part of the yellow country as the remaining army forces fall back to the border of the brown country. That turns out not to be the greatest of ideas though, as the Dutch country will join this war in hopes of gaining a little bit of land and maybe some influence. They meet up with revolutionary armies and decide to, call it cools and say, hey, we're chill, right? Additionally, we see the blue team come down and get some land along the Polish coast. And after a few years of fighting, we see the end of the yellow team. The revolution was a success, and that's mostly thanks to foreign powers, but now we can take a look at the peace treaty that is drawn up. All right, I kid you not, I did like 10 minutes of trying to figure out what colors to use, but it's whatever. I don't really like it, but it is what it is. We have the peace treaty now being worked out in Europe, and this place is looking a lot more packed. Not a whole lot of unification going on anymore. And there's really only like 3 big countries, being the brown team, the Farmers Union, and the gold team. I guess Finland also, that's pretty big, and Norway. But now let's go ahead and show you where the capitals are at. As per usual, I will be dotting these all over the place and in random places with no real correlation to anything important. Other than trade routes, those are important. So we'll be putting one capital right here, another capital right here. And as for the rest, that's when it actually doesn't really matter too much. So for this light blue team, we'll be putting their capital over here. And for the purple team, we'll be putting it right here. Now, as you'll notice, the yellow team does still exist, but with a different government. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and shade them a slightly darker yellow. You really can't even see a difference. And this is what Europe is looking like at this point. The revolution was a success, and this large country right here now exists. Now over to Central Asia, where we have a few agreements taking place between these countries. This isn't something that typically happens, as these countries are weak and don't really have any standings with each other politically. But they do make an agreement on the kind of annexation of northern central China, where this gold team will get that, and the pink team will get something like this. These guys are becoming fairly large, but remember, they are still fairly weak. Time for Daily Britain update? Yeah, I think so. The green team will take out the purple country, and that's it. There's really nothing else that happens here. Remember, these countries just came back into existence, so they're not too strong, and they're still healing from the big war that took place last time. But before I end off this video, there is an event that I want to talk about that takes place, and that is the death of the leader of the red team. They have been in power for over 60 years. That is a very long time. They came into power when they were 14 years old, which would make them 74 at their time of passing, which is pretty impressive for this time period. But now there is a little bit of an issue. The leader of the red team, of course, married a wife, and they together had children. The issue is, though, those children just happen to be twins. So there's, two of the same. They were born on the same day within a couple minutes of each other. There's also another child. It's a daughter, but she is not a twin. But these two are identical twins, and it creates a little bit of an issue. Now, let's also not forget that at this time, people weren't very loyal. So he might also have some children with another person who might also happen to be twins. And if it isn't clear, this guy is also a twin. So I'm drawing in a whole family tree here. Just try your best. So his parents had him, and he is also a twin of this person who doesn't have any kids. But there's also a set of female twins over here. So this is the red team's royal family tree at this point. This guy is the former leader of the red team. He's dead. So is she. But his children are all still alive. This guy was the eldest. In fact, due to complications during his twin brother's birth, it kind of just made it easier for the dad to figure out which one would rule. This one, he's pretty normal. This one is slightly different. And then these guys over here are younger. They're a younger set. So like I was saying, this is the older guy. And he has, well, my main point is, two eldest sons who are, once again, born within minutes of each other. They don't even really remember who was born first. So it creates complications for who will be the next ruler of the red team. Of course, you could also have the daughter do it, but these guys weren't too equal at this time. And then the illegitimate children, they don't count. It would be really weird if I just drew a line right there. Like, that would be extremely weird. So these two are gonna freaking fight each other. And the differences between the two are insane. While one of them wants to carry on the legacy of their father and be a fairly democratic ruler, the other is not about that life. The other one wants to expand the glory of the red team and have the red team reach the Atlantic Ocean, into the Indian Ocean, and to the Pacific. Essentially, they want the whole world to be under the rule of the red team. So when they duel, and yes, they're brothers, of course, they're going to duel, and one of them is going to die. That's how serious this matter is. Try to guess which one wins. The nice one, who would be a perfect ruler, or the one that would be a horrible ruler. Make your guess. It's actually the Democratic guy. No, I'm just kidding. It's not him. He's dead. The cruel tyrant wins the duel and hence wins the leadership and imperial role of ruling the red team. And his agenda is not great. This guy is kind of tyrannical and he wants to expand the red team and essentially take over the world. It's been about a month since he was elected and not many changes have taken place, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it kind of hits. A series of policies roll out which enforces the red team, makes the government stronger, and as well as the military. The military budget is increased at the expense of the people, but the red team's military quickly becomes #1 in the world. And this puts a lot of countries on high alert. If we'll take a look at their surroundings, we can see that the red team has one ally up north, which is the Farmer Union. And other than that, they're not really on any terms with any other countries. They're sort of friendly with the brown team country, but they're all the way in northern Europe. They've worked together with multiple countries in the past, but they've also lost a lot of land in the Arabian Peninsula. But something to take note of is this alliance over here, the Circle Alliance, who is they're a bunch of weak countries kind of smushed together in order to oppose the surrounding powerful nations like the green team, the red team, and the lime team. The red team is currently set out on expanding and reconquering lands that it has lost. The red team has taken various shapes over the course of this series. They have been down into the Arabian Peninsula, they have been across Africa, into Europe, and honestly, this is kind of like a smaller version of what the red team could be, but they want to fix that as soon as possible. So the red team sends its forces up north to its first opponent, which will be this lighter red team. These guys have been chilling. They have done nothing wrong as of recently. I mean, they kind of got in on the collapse of the other green team that was here. But other than that, they've done nothing. And the red team does not care about their history because their history is red team history. Yeah, these guys, they don't exist in the eyes of the red team. There's weird overlapping things happening, but it doesn't matter because all we need to know is that this country no longer exists. The red team now touches up against the border of the gold team, who they have neutral relations with, but now their focus will be changed down south, specifically on the Arabian Peninsula, where a lot of land here used to be a part of their own. More specifically, these two countries. Troops enter into the pinkish country and just roll on through. Their new military is highly advanced and has a lot of manpower, and it's safe to say that it's kind of unmatched. The pink team follows and they are next into the red empire. Next up, we have their invasion of the lime-ish country. They don't stand a chance either. But it's at this point that the red team stops and starts to focus elsewhere. That elsewhere happens to be in Africa. They invade into the green team and you guessed it, take them out with ease. If I could click the right layer, there we go. And as soon as the green team is demolished, they immediately move south again. This time into the beige-ish kind of country. These guys gave them trouble in the past, but under the ruling of their new leader, there's no chance. They are steamrolled and ran over and are defeated. The red team is on a different level right now, and they're not going to stop until someone else stops them. They now invade up into the purple country. These guys are fairly new. They've done nothing wrong, but they are suffering the consequences of existing. In a world like this, there's not much that is fair, and the purple team just gets obliterated. The red team's empire is now the largest it has ever been in history, and it can make a case for probably the largest country in the world at this point. But they're not done yet, because the Circle Alliance is its next target. This team broke away from the red team at one point in history, and they want them back because they are laying claim over all of the land that they once had. The Circle team is not strong enough to hold off the red team at this point. They're probably strong enough to stalemate them, but over time they would lose. The red team knows this, and with their fancy new military equipment and gear, they are going to storm right into this Persian country, and the red team starts to just destroy all that was once here. They then go up into the teal country. The red team continues to advance into other territory, and there's no slowing them down. But other countries start to see opportunity here, specifically the green and the lime team. These guys will start to enter into the Circle Alliance and reclaim land which for the green team was once theirs. But for the lime team, this is new land and hence new opportunity, so they make their move and lay claim to some of it. In the end, the Circle Alliance stands no chance, and their new borders look something like this. So three big countries now all touch each other. Their powers are very deviating. The green team is not super strong, but the lime and red teams are very strong. And the red team and the lime team haven't really interacted much outside of trade and history, so the ways that their political leaders view each other could vary. In my sense, I think the red team probably has a slightly negative view of the lime team, and I think that might be the same for the lime team towards the red team, but they're chilling for now. They just are now meeting for the first time. But now the red team wants to take its endeavors elsewhere, specifically into the Mediterranean Sea. This country has done absolutely nothing. They were kicked out from their peninsula, and today they're going to be kicked out from life. The red team conquers this tiny little island nation, and red team ships now start to surround the Greek peninsula. It is now becoming apparent to the world that the red team will not stop until it literally cannot expand anymore, and as of now, it looks like expanding more is on their menu. After taking out Greece, the red team is now the largest country in history, and also the largest and strongest empire in history. The main flaw with this country, however, is the difference between the government and the people. The government is obviously enjoying this. Their borders are huge. The people are enjoying it somewhat, but they are definitely feeling the effects of rapidly expanding. But it is fueling their economy in kind of an interesting way, kind of similar to how America's economy can be fueled from war presently, but not on that large of a scale since it's not like mass manufacturing, more of just exploitation. But the red team will now start to expand into Western Europe, this time going after the blue team, who has been a very historic country throughout the span of the series. Their troops are no match for the red team, as you would guess, and they enter into Tunis. They also take over Sicily, but at this point, the world is finally going to retaliate against the red team. Taking a look at the alliance map, we can see that the blue team is a part of an alliance, which includes the dark cyan team and the dark purple team. So by default, they're also at war with the red team, but there are going to be multiple other countries that join in on the triangle team in order to put a stop to the red team's expansion. And it is a series of unlikely countries. One of them is the gold team, another is the green team, there's the purple team, which is probably the biggest twist so far, the brown team, and finally and most notably, the dark green team. They have a very blurry triangle, but we'll live. This new alliance of a bunch of very unlikely nations is going to attempt to finally put an end to the red team. Will they be super successful? Who knows, but they do have an advantage in terms of how spread out they are, as you can see. But the red team is now fighting a multiple front war, and as we know throughout history, that is not a winning formula. So in Napoleon style, these guys are up for a challenge. Immediately, the red team will continue to focus in on the areas that it's already at. These include areas in northern Africa, in the Italian peninsula, and the purple team is finally wiped out. It's been here since episode 1, but it is now officially gone. We see the red team navy, which is like insanely advanced, take out the Isle of Sardinia, and red team troops advance throughout into northern Africa near Iberia. They are getting kind of far from home though, and this is the longest range war that we've seen so far, so there could be difficulties there. But elsewhere, red team troops will attempt to fight up against other forces, specifically in Africa, as well as the Caucasus Mountain area. Where the red team is struggling, however, is over here in the Middle Eastern area, as the green team is just sending pretty much all of their military into this one spot, and it also kind of feels as if the green team has been buffed. But the red team sees a lot of losses in the Iranian area, and they have to send troops over to stop this. Back over in northern Africa, their front line has essentially stalled out as they have been exhausted from their resources. And also an important question, what is the Farmer Union doing at this point? Well, they will join this war, but only against the gold team. Kind of interesting considering that these two haven't had any history of negative relations. But with the Farmers Union joining in, this brings about kind of an interesting war aspect to Eastern Europe, which is kind of freshly, born. But with the Farmers Union attacking the Gold Alliance, which, if you remember, kind of was the catalyst to the collapse of the yellow team. These couple of countries here will quickly shoot up and join up with the gold team on the Triangle Alliance. And now you have to wonder, is this the biggest gangbang in AdizzPro history? Because the Triangle Alliance at this point is huge. So even though while the Farmers Union is handling the gold team, there are multiple areas across their border where they are experiencing great losses due to these 3 new countries joining the war. And at this point, it's becoming an overwhelming front for the Farmers Union to handle, so they request the aid of the red team, who will attempt to come to their help. But it's a little bit too much for the red team, as their empire has been too stretched out at this point. The green team makes a major breakthrough over in Persia, but this is stopped due to a smart logistical decision by a red team general, who is able to briefly spike up into the center of the green team southern area, this area, and with their logistical advantage, they're able to kind of encircle these troops and force them out. This saves a lot of land and a lot of manpower, and allows them to get super close to the green team's capital. They also follow along the lime team's border for a even larger advantage. Back in northern Africa, their advancements resume, and against the gold team, they make outstanding progress and even land in Crimea in hopes of taking the gold team's capital. They take the area around the Lake of Azov and cut the gold team off from the Caspian Sea and start invading the green team from the west. This is the red team's height. And I say that it's their height because something just happened, which will kind of not be so good for the red team. A new country joins in on the Triangle Alliance. Go ahead and make your guesses. Who do you think it is? Let me know in the comments. But the country that will be joining this war against the red team is the lime team. The lime team has long been the strongest country in the world, but after being surpassed by the new red empire, they feel that their rule and it's not really being threatened, but they feel like it's being threatened. So they join this war against the red team, and that's not good if you're a red team fanboy. Number 2 sends troops right into number 1, and the old red team's ruler is currently rolling in their grave right now. So is the guy that lost the duel. He's probably really mad, but he's dead, so he can't have feelings. The 2 greens do the good old-fashioned gangbang against the red team. I should probably stop using that term before I get in trouble. But they quickly go into Persia and meet the border of the actual red team country / province, not their expanded lands. We also see not so good stuff happening elsewhere. With the help of the Dark Cyan team, the blue team is able to take back pretty much half of their land, if not all of it. And the Farmers Union feels the ways of the war changing as the red team troops that were once helping them out flee back to the red team. And in ironic fashion, the gold team will capture the capital of the Farmers Union,
and this thing will start to crumble as multiple different countries start to pick it apart. The red team sees this, however, and kind of similar to what Germany did in World War II with Italy, they will quickly invade the rest of the Farmers Union to help it out and hopefully hold out. But as for the rest of the Farmers Union territory, it will go ahead and merge with this magenta country. Elsewhere, the red team starts to see a collapse in its front as the gold team, now only dealing with the red team on its own, will push back into the Caucasus Mountain territory area. The green team will take its land back, and now multiple countries are starting to quickly take in on a kind of collapsing red team. Even the brown team sees land gain in the south of Africa, and the lime team starts making naval landings in the Arabian Peninsula, and this is not good. They take all of the Persian Gulf and start making a campaign right towards the capital of the red team. This is the closest an enemy has ever gotten to the red team's capital. Quickly, the red team will go ahead and pull its forces from Europe. In this case, I'll be calling them gold just because they are the closest and the strongest country to those areas. And they also pull a large amount of forces out of Africa, leading to just once again the closest and strongest countries taking the possession. And now the red team is smaller than it was at the beginning of this video. The gold team then crosses over into the red team's main area, and their citizens of the country are now a little bit worried, just a little bit. The green team lays claim to their once coastal areas, and a musket shot finds its way into the head of the red team's ruler. With him dead, there is no real rule to the government, and the lime team swiftly takes the capital of the red team. And it's at this point that the blue team enters this war and starts to take a massive amount of land really quickly. The country commanded by the holy cities quickly moves across the Arabian Peninsula and takes just once again an absurd amount of land. They eventually make their way all the way up into what is current day Palestine/Israel, and finally we see that the red team surrenders. The red team is technically the oldest country in the world, and it is now facing defeat, probably for the first time ever. Not just your normal old, oh, you lost a war. This is like bad defeat. Like, you're not coming back from this kind of defeat. In a Napoleonish kind of way, they were able to expand their borders greatly, but just as quick as the Mongol Empire expanded, it also fell. So that's what we see happening with the red team. They tried to be great, but that didn't work too well, and it turns out that the other brother probably should have won that duel. If he did, history would have been different. But the kind of mentally insane guy won it. So yeah, the red team, bye-bye. If we remember looking at the family tree of the red team, the old ruler had a lot of kids. Some of them were twins, which made this whole process kind of complicated. There was daughters, there was the two sons who fought, and then there was a pair of illegitimate children with a mistress. The red team will appoint one of those kids to the throne. And this is kind of a controversial move for the red team. Not a lot of people support it since it's illegitimate, but at the end of the day, your empire is gone, so you don't have a choice. But with this guy now put into power, we'll sit down with all of the Triangle Alliance and figure out a peace treaty. We can now take a look at that peace treaty. This looks certainly different, and that's because the red team lost the war once again, and they got their land kind of, just goodbye. The red team is still in existence, although it is a shell of its former self. As you can see, they mostly pertain to the Mesopotamia area and a little bit into the Mediterranean Sea. And that's really it, though. These green countries kind of got their way with the red team. I mean, there's still some capitals that I have to erase. But yeah, the red team got, destroyed, and the Farmers Union no longer exists. It was split into two after the surrounding countries got what they wanted. And the old government doesn't exist, so it's more so just West Farmer and then East Farmer, but with new governments. This piece was once a part of the red team. They were kind of leftovers, and they were just formed into a new country. The Greek country got their land, a lot of land from it. The gold team got a lot of land from it. The purple team got a lot of land that was once theirs, but the red team had a colony over here that went to the purple team. The blue team didn't get anything, unfortunately for them. The purple team and the green team are back, so is this yellowish team. They got a little bit of land, but the most notable thing you'll see here is the blue team is huge. And that's because they were able to convince the other green teams and other members of the Triangle Alliance to allow them to take a majority of the land from the red team. This also includes two countries, which were down here, but those two countries were kind of irrelevant in peace talks because their governments were kind of killed by the red team at one point. It was a pretty bad genocide in that area. This purple country kind of survived, and that's thanks to a reworked peace treaty between the two green countries over here, involving the former Circle Alliance. As you can see, only one of those countries now exists. But essentially what they did is they just redid that peace treaty, except with only them two in it. They split up that land, and they also allowed this country to exist and live. The Caucasian country is back, and they have a lot more land now. And notably, this little tiny island country, which has been here forever, or for a very long time at least, now has half of Turkey. This was a gift from the Triangle Alliance to them for them just waiting it out and existing. They were subject to tyranny and they overcame it, and this is what they get for it. They also get Cyprus as well. But interestingly enough, they will keep their capital on the island of Crete, which we'll see how that plays out for them in the future. But now we can talk about the new countries which exist, which there are only about 2. That's because there was a lot of, grabbing of land. But these 2 countries are this one right here. Their capital will be right here. And this orange country right here, which will have its capital over here. Remember I said that the red team appointed the offspring, which was illegitimate, to the head of the country. He is still ruling because he was very nice and he worked well with the Triangle Alliance when the peace treaty was happening. This orange country right here is ruled by his twin brother, and they are banned from ever merging into one. But do note that they are extremely friendly with each other, mostly because they're twin brothers. Finally, over here we have this new purple country, which is headed by the daughter of the former ruler. Not the tyrannical one, the one that came before him. Okay, just for reference, because it's getting kind of confusing, this was the ruler of the red team for around 60 years. In the last episode, he died, and one of his sons became the ruler. That was like, I guess this one doesn't really matter now. The tyrannical one here, and then the democratic one here. The tyrannical one killed the democratic one in a duel, and he became the ruler of the red team. We all know that he eventually got shot and killed, so he is dead along with his brother and his father. But we're looking at these 3 now. These are the illegitimate children over here, and then he has one legitimate daughter. She is the ruler of this purple country right here, and these 2 are the rulers of the red team and the orange team. This was the one who was appointed ruler of the red team at the end of the Great War, and this one was appointed the ruler of the orange team after the war, and she was appointed to the purple team after the war as well. So that's where the red team's family tree is technically at right now. And with this big kind of confusing mess, a lot of people are recognizing the purple country as the legitimate red team. That is because, of course, the daughter is legitimate and not illegitimate like these 2 down here. And that leads to a lot of debate among the people who live within these countries. It also creates a lot of hate between these 2, and their relations are immediately bad. Will that develop into anything? I don't know. Find out in the next episode. Now, but for real though, in the next episode, we'll probably be taking a little bit of a break from the old world and focusing in on the new world. And regarding the Triangle team, their alliance members will just go back to these 3. It was a big coalition if you couldn't tell, but now there's only one alliance in the world, and that is with the Triangle Squad. Who knows, maybe we'll see some new alliances form next time, but once again, that is all for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new. All that support is greatly appreciated. If you want to see more of this series, that also helps that out. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next episode.
And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Serminator, Hyper, King Cheese, Freezioid, Big Red Plays, Laser Tase, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Pablo Sigma Cat, Death Strider X, Hammer Toad 45, Connor the Gamer, CTG on YT, Johnny XX7, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.